honey, so you can see what's going on. What's going on? Hey, what's going on? Tell me what's going on.
Go. All right, welcome to What's Happening Now on KBLKradio.com, and thank you for tuning in. This is your host, Bishop Bowser, and we have an exciting show for you today, and everyone should be listening. So you know what I'm going to say next, right? Yes, right now I want you to text or call 7 people and encourage them to tune in to this show. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this morning we have a great show for you. We have Reverend Dennis Malone with All of Us or None. And this week's topic, the black vote. Tricked by foxes, which are the Democrats, and suppressed by wolves, which is the Republicans. That's what's happening to the black vote. So, as I always start, I want to start out with a little commentary here. And I want to begin by reading the scripture found in the book of Luke, chapter 13, and verse 31 through 32. And it reads like this, and I quote, "On that same day, some Pharisees came, saying to him, 'Get out of here and go away, for Herod wants to kill you.' He said to them, 'Go and tell that fox, behold, I cast out demons and perform cures, and tomorrow and the third day I complete my mission.'" This was Jesus, who I call Yahshua, was responding to the Pharisees, which they were delivering a message for Herod. Now, Jesus said, "Tell that fox." Now, a fox is an emblem of slyness, of cunning, and of artful mischief. The word is also used to denote a dissembler. That is someone who gives a false or misleading appearance to conceal the truth or real nature of a thing. Herod, who was a politician, was a wicked man, but the particular thing to which Jesus here calls attention to is not his vices, but his cunning or clever devices or expedients, especially as used to trick or deceive Jesus. You know, tell him, hey, he's out to get you. He probably sent those Pharisees to say that. Herod was using trickery, endeavoring to remove Jesus out of his territory. He had endeavored to do it by a plan and a scheme, especially one used to outwit Jesus by sending these people who pretended great friendship for his life. They were concerned about his life, and they wanted, hey man, you better get out of here. Herod want to kill you. But it's really all part of the plot of Herod. And that's why Jesus said, "You tell that fox, you ain't slick." You know, and you know, that's the way these Democrats are. You know, sorry to say, you know, most blacks, over 90%, vote Democrat. And but these Democrats, man, throughout the years, they've been tricking us. They've been running a sham on us. And it's time for us to wake up and start holding somebody accountable if we're going to get out there and vote. So let me read another scripture to you, found in the book of Matthew, chapter 15 through 16. Matthew chapter 7, verse 15 through 16. And it reads, "Be careful of false prophets. They come to you looking gentle like sheep, but they're really dangerous wolves. You will know these people by what they do. Grapes don't come from thorn bushes, and figs don't come from thorny weeds." Now, these wolves were aggressively greedy, whom Jesus was talking about. They were ferociously devouring, hungry even to rage. Here it is applied to the false teachers. It means that they assumed the appearance of holiness in order that they might the more readily get the property from the people, and they were full of extortion and excess. They obtained money and other things of value by abuse of their office or authority. Now, of course, it's called the Republicans wolves because they come to you like they're Christians. They come to you like, oh, we're concerned about the Bible and pro-life and, and all these other things. But then you look at their fruit, they care nothing about human dignity and human life. And all you have to do is look at the fruit, and you will know that by the way they talk and the things that they do, there's nothing Christian about them. They're totally wicked and evil. And so when we look at this and talk about these greatest wolves, it sounds familiar. And now, if it doesn't, let me just share with you today about an enterprise in California. because we talk about these guys being greedy and out for money. These Republicans and Democrats right along with them. But here is a enterprise I want to tell you about in California. This enterprise makes $8.2 billion a year. It pays its employees anywhere from 25 cents to 90 cents an hour. 70% of these employees are black and brown people, which is a $5.8 billion share of the $8.2 billion. I am talking to you about the prison industry that is benefiting from unfair and racist laws legislated by the Republican wolves and Democratic foxes, which led to mass incarceration. And we speak against Republicans most times as black people, but then we're praising the Democrats. But let me point out some things to you here as we move along here. This is the year of politics, when politicians are going to come into our communities asking for our vote. You can't find these politicians until election time. When you do find them, they are going to come and they're going to offer you, or they're going to come in with false promises. Some of them are foxes and some of them are wolves. Now, as Malcolm X said, and I quote,
okay, now.
yeah, that's right. And that's what Malcolm X said. So he said, when I speak, this is what Malcolm X said, and I quote, when I speak, I don't speak as a Democrat or Republican.
Yeah.
I speak as a victim of America's democracy. We haven't benefited from America's democracy, and all we have seen is America's hypocrisy. We don't see any American dream. We experience only the American nightmare. End of quote. The Democrats are in Washington, D.C. and Sacramento, California. So that's the national, Washington, D.C., Senate and Congress. And then in Sacramento, that's the state capital, where you have our state senators and representatives from all the various districts. And only because of the vote of the black and brown people and other people of color, that's why they're in these offices. If it wasn't for the black vote, a lot of these Democrats and so on would not be in office, especially black and brown people. What do we get out of it? As Malcolm X said, and I quote, he said, you put them first, but they put you last. The first thing they do when they come to power is take all the black leaders out for coffee to show that they are all right.
They can't turn down the coffee.
That's right. He said, and he said, this is what Malcolm X said. He said, those Uncle Toms can't pass up the coffee. They come away from the coffee table, these leaders, so-called black leaders, come from the coffee table telling you and me that these politicians are all right. That sounds like 2016.
Right now,
that's right. That's right. So I believe what Michelle Alexander said about the Clintons, that's President Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton, applied to most Democrats. Here's what she said about them, and I quote, "What have the Clintons done to earn such devotion?" That is from black people. Did they take extreme political risks to defend the rights of African Americans? Did they courageously stand up to right-wing demagoguery about black communities? Did they help usher in a new era of hope and prosperity for neighborhoods devastated by disindustrialization, globalization, and the disappearance of work? Did they? She goes on to say, no, it's quite the opposite. Now, as it continues on, she says, Clinton championed the idea of a federal strike three or three strikes law in his 1994 State of the Union address, and months later signed a $30 billion crime bill that created dozens of new federal capital crimes, mandated life sentences for some three-time offenders, and authorized more than $16 billion for state prison grants and the expansion of police forces. The legislation was hailed by mainstream media outlets as a victory for the Democrats, who were able to wrest the crime issue from the Republican, the wolves, and make it their own. When Clinton left office in 2001, the United States had the highest rate of incarceration in the world. Human Rights Watch reported that in 7 states, African Americans constituted 80 to 90% of all drug offenders sent to prison. even though they were no more likely than whites to use or sell illegal drugs. Prison admissions for drug offenses reached a level of, in 2000, for African Americans, more than 26 times the level in 1983. All of the presidents since 1980 have contributed to mass incarceration. But as Equal Justice Initiative founder Brian Stevenson recently observed, President Clinton's tenure was the worst. And that's end of quote. And let me tell you, it took a black man to become the president of the United States to undo some of the damage that the Democrats and Republicans caused. And he had to do a lot of this by executive order. Michelle Alexander, in her book, The New Jim Crow, wrote and said, and I quote, "More African Americans are under the control of the criminal justice system today, in prison or jail, on probation or parole, than were enslaved in 1850. Discrimination, and this is what we're going to talk about today, in housing, education, employment, and voting rights, which many Americans thought was wiped out by the civil rights law of the 1960s, is now perfectly legal against anyone labeled a felon. And since many more people of color than whites are made felons by the entire system of mass incarceration, racial discrimination remains as powerful as it was under slavery or under the post-slavery era of Jim Crow segregation." End of quote. Now we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to come back with the Reverend Dennis Malone, with All of Us or None, and we're going to get into some deep discussion about the black vote and how it's affecting our community through the prison system and mass incarceration. So we'll be right back in a moment, so stay tuned, and we'll be right back. God bless you. All right, welcome back to What's Happening Now on KBOKRadio.com, and this is your host, Bishop Bowser, and we're back today, and we're going to be discussing the black vote, and we're talking about those foxes, the Democrats, and we're talking about those wolves, the Republicans. The foxes trick us, and the wolves, they suppress us when we're talking about the vote. Now I have here Reverend Dennis Malone, and he is actually fighting the war on drugs, which we were talking about, the new Jim Crow. Let me read his bio for you, brief little information about you, about Dennis, before we get into some conversation here. Reverend Dennis Malone, co-founder and lead organizer of All of Us or None, San Diego, and advocates for criminal justice reform and community economic development. Reverend Malone has a Bachelor's of Social Science degree and was honored by the San Diego Foundation for Change with the Danzig Award for Outstanding Community Grassroots Organizing. These accomplishments come after serving nearly a decade, from 1982 to 1981, in federal and state penal institutions. Since 1991, Reverend Malone has been an example of a second chance made good. All of Us or None, San Diego is a grassroots movement of former prisoners and felons organizing to combat the many forms of discrimination faced as the result of felony convictions. And so I want to bring into our discussion Reverend Dennis Malone. And Reverend Malone, thank you for being on the show. It's good to have you.
Thanks for having me.
All right.
Man, your opening was so exciting.
Go ahead.
Your opening was very exciting, and you brought across some great points regarding the voting issue.
Right.
I can see where folks are hesitant to get out and vote. I can see where folks don't trust the voting system.
Right.
I can see where there's a great deal of work that needs to be done in educating our folks on who to vote for, and whether, and especially if you're a convicted felon, can you vote? Period.
Right.
A lot of our folks walk around and they ask me all the time, can I vote? And they don't know their own circumstances.
Right.
No one dictates to them or lets them know whether or not, when they get out of prison or jail, whether or not they have the right to vote. Nor do they tell them while they're in jail can they vote.
Right.
So how does this education come about? Who's going to educate the people?
Right.
who's going to feed the masses?
Right.
Well, it's our duty to do that.
Amen. 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 Thank you for the good introduction. Now, can you tell us, because we're reading your bio and we know that you've done time in prison.
Right.
What did you do time for?
Well, bank larceny, sales, drugs. I think it was more so as being a member of society and being, I'm not going to say a victim, because, sometimes when you're put in certain situations and you're in survival mode, trying to put food on the table, trying to have decent clothes to wear, for us coming up on the coast back in the 70s.
You're talking about West Coast territory?
Yeah, coming up, and the affiliations that we have there, we were labeled as gang members even though we never participated in any gang real activity.
Right.
I'm not going to deny the fact that I was doing wrong back in my teenage years, because I was a known drug dealer. But that's not to say I had to do that. It's to say that's what I did. But that's not all I did. I was also a minister at the age of 17. So that's not all I did.
Right.
I played basketball, played sports. But this was a reason. My mama used to always tell us, don't do nothing that them people, you got to be looking at them people in the face. Stay out of their way. And as a single parent, she was giving me some good advice.
Right.
But, wasn't no man for me to listen to it. I'm 17, 18 years old. A woman's voice didn't appear to have the strength behind it to enforce anything that I was going to be out there doing.
Right. So, and I remember back in those days, because I was out there too, and and I was still out there when you got locked up in '82, because I didn't get to church until '84. Okay. But I remember. You was on our side of town and things. You didn't actually bang, but you knew all of us. We all grew up in the same community. But I remember, we used to buy drugs from you all the time. You wanted them in, with your low riders and the different things. So you trying to live high, but it's just a dream that we all want, and because we're kept out of the American dream, we create our own little world of how to make money, how to live, and how to survive. Exactly, how to survive. So when you got out of prison in 1991, was that when you made your change to really try to go back and change the system? What clicked in your mind when you got out, or even before you got out, that man, I got to help change the system?
I've always had a free spirit. And I was always willing to take things as far as I could, push the envelope. I'm in Terminal Island. Never forget it. Terminal Island, and I'm in what they call the SHU program now. Back then we called it the hole.
Right.
So I'm in the hole, and I was not going to get out the hole until things on the yard had calmed down, because I had messed around and got into a fight with one of the Native Americans in there.
Okay.
And they were about 30% of the population inside Terminal Island. They were deep in numbers. So me and the Indian get into a fight, and I go to the hole, lo and behold, knowing that I could never go back on the yard. The way it's done, Indians mess with one Indian, you mess with the whole tribe.
Right, okay.
So while I'm in the hole, this is when I got that light from God.
Amen.
Sat down upon me. And he finally got my attention again. And that was a turning point for me. And when they came in and asked me, the counselors and the deputies asked me, did I feel safe going back onto the yard? This was after 2 months of being in the hole.
Wow.
And I said, yeah. I feel good, real good.
All right.
But let me stay in about another month before they let me out the hole. So when they released me out, the whole wall I had to walk through were lined up with these Native Americans.
Okay.
Lined up. I walked right through them, and ever since then, I have not looked back on what I want to do with my life. Mm-hmm. The Lord came in and directed my path. Mm-hmm. And said, I'm going to prepare you to be about my business when you get out of here. And I'm going to break these walls down for you.
Amen. Now, it seems like, and maybe that's an exaggeration, but I think it's really real, that there is a legalized discrimination in employment, in housing, access to education, and basic public benefits against the formerly incarcerated. Do you?
Well, the policies are in place for the brothers to go back to prison.
Right.
Policies are in place for brothers that have a very difficult time in trying to maintain themselves and be any type of successful citizen in society. Mm-hmm. But knowing that the deck is stacked, one must prepare himself for that type of war. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that we do with All of Us and None is that we educate folks on their circumstances, educate them on their rights, their right to vote once you get off parole. Educate them on the necessity of returning to school to improve your education. Thus giving you a better chance at economic success.
Right.
And we do this and give them a pathway and show them a way of doing that. And in the meantime, we're teaching them how to organize and bring others into the fold that need this. Most brothers get out, they look for agencies that are going to carry them forward. Yeah. And they get out, it's not there. The agency's not there, so now what do you do?
That's right.
You know, you didn't prepare yourself while you were sitting in those cells to make a way for yourself. And that's what I noticed with the state institutions more so than with the federal institutions. Because federal, they have everything there for you. You want to go to school, you go to school. Right. If you want to work, you work. Right. But the emphasis is always on the education. Okay. And in a way, that's really what propelled me to continue my education once I got out. Because I was so busy going to school in there, it became second nature.
So, let me ask you a question in regards to, because when you talk about an individual that is convicted of a felony, and when they have that felony, there's a lot of rights that they lose. And we and this really is amazing in how, discrimination has turned around.
Institutional.
Institutional, structural racism. And how it has, well, I shouldn't say how that, but how the politicians, both Democrats and Republicans, have voted, and sometimes unanimously, for a lot of these laws, whether it's dealing with housing, where people can't get into housing if they have a felony, or access to education, can't get a grant, can't get a student loan if they have a felony, and even public benefits. I know some laws have been changed around in the past year or so with public benefits and so on, but even with that, that's going on. And how long would you say that, when we look at the right to vote, how long would you say that law has been in place? Has it been in place since slavery, or since after slavery, or how long has that law been in place? Do you know?
Well, states carry their own laws, and the states are all different. Okay. California, as long as you're off parole and not in custody and over the age of 18 and you're a resident, you can vote. You can vote. California is a little bit ahead of the game than other states. A lot of states, 2 states, if you have any type of felony, you can never vote.
Right. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, you can never vote in 2 states. And there's 28 that if you're on probation, you have the right to vote. So each state is different in how they go about their voting disenfranchisement. However, we know that there's 4 million African Americans who cannot vote based
How
on
many?
the 4 million
And that's in the whole
in the whole United States.
4 million.
Approximately around 4 million who have lost their right to vote will not be voting on this election.
Wow. That's the black vote?
That's the black vote.
Y'all hear that? 4
Million.
Can you imagine 4 million black people that
Disenfranchised.
can't vote, that's been disenfranchised if they could vote?
Right.
The impact and the difference it would make in politics and so on. Because these folks that are, I find this even in California, that, these politicians will pass any law unanimously when it comes to criminalizing our community, thinking that they're fighting a good fight against crime. When the laws are not fairly applied across all racial lines. They come right into impoverished communities where people are already suffering and struggling, and make arrests and target those who are the easy target, which are blacks.
The Bushes never would have been elected had it not been for the black vote being disenfranchised in Florida.
Look at that.
So that's a good example of what you're saying.
Exactly. Exactly. And that happens in all the states.
In all the states.
In all the states and all around. And so one of the things that we got to start doing is, number one, prevent our young black folks from committing crimes, that they get these felonies, because this is another way to suppress the black vote, is through being arrested and criminalized. And a lot, let me ask you a question, because if an individual is convicted of a felony, but is not sent to the prison, they might just say, okay, we put you on house arrest or 5 years probation. Can they vote?
Well, they have a right to vote. They may not know they can vote.
Okay.
And that's another thing. We have to educate our people on their rights. And so sometimes we discriminate against our own selves. Ignorance is something else,
Right.
So we really want to educate folks that as long as you are not in state prison, as long as you are not on state parole, you have not lost your right to vote.
Okay.
It's just that simple. Now that needs to be put
what
out.
What about AB 109s? The guys who go to prison, but they get out on probation instead of parole.
Now they went back and tried to fight that, but they found that they cannot vote until they get off that probation period.
So if they've been to prison,
dual sentence.
So if they've been to prison, even if they get out on probation, they still can't vote.
They still can't vote.
Okay.
Now,
but if they go to state county, if they go to like the county jail, and they convicted of a felony, but they just put on probation, can they vote?
Like Prop 47 people.
Yeah. Well, Prop 47 reduces them to misdemeanor. But I'm talking about, because now folks are not going to prison sometimes when they convict of a felony.
Violation, yeah. If it's a violation, per se, and they go to state and they're found to do, and they come out on probation, they have not been to state prison. They don't have that parole tie.
Right.
So yes, they can vote.
Okay.
But now they need to make it so that this information is given to those who are on the inside of the jails.
Exactly.
So they can exercise their right to vote. What we do is we go to the jailhouses.
Right.
And we let the visitors know to pass this information on to their loved one that just because they're in jail does not mean they cannot vote. They can always vote absentee.
Right.
And I mean, all they need to do is have an address. And that's all they need.
Okay. Now let me ask you something, because all of us are none. What laws have you all changed?
Okay, what we done was policies across the board, across the United States, have really the disenfranchisement laws. The greatest one that we saw to be the number one hurdle for the formerly incarcerated was jobs, employment.
Right.
So we started a movement called Ban the Box, which is that question on job applications: have you ever been convicted of a felony?
Right.
Now we went and addressed that at the state level, and we had finally, after 10 years of fighting this and pushing our Ban the Box
10 years
initiative, 10 years, we finally got the governor to sign it into law. that states, county, and cities, governments, no longer ask that question on the job application.
On state, county,
and city.
Now,
so what happens is
mm-hmm.
They've taken it off of the application, and they've still asked that question further down the hiring process.
Interview process.
Right. And maybe the second interview, third interview, but it will come up.
Right.
But at least by that time, you had a chance to introduce who you are. And you get that initial interview to let them know that I may have been involved with some things in my life that I'm not proud of, and go ahead and sell your goods. And let them know you've been educated, you've got this work experience, but at least you got your foot in the door.
Right.
Prior to that passing, folks would never go and apply for city jobs,
right,
state jobs. They wouldn't even think about it. They knew that an application was going in the trash once you checked off that box.
Right.
Now, we've been blessed to have Obama
mm-hmm.
Look at our Bandit Box initiative
right.
as well.
Right.
And hopefully we'll have some movement on that shortly.
Right, and I know they're still talking about it. We went to Washington.
Right,
also.
right, exactly.
Yeah,
that's
right.
That's right.
Pico and so on.
Right.
Yeah.
So we are making headway in our movement, but 10 years it took us to get this far.
Right.
You know, so we got to pass the baton on to somebody. They'll be around the next 10.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah, and so it's important for us to continue to organize. And this is across the board. California has it bad, but so does the rest of the nation in incarcerating folks for these lengthy sentences.
Right.
So,
enhancement laws and the whole bit.
Exactly.
Now with Bandit Box, and why is it so important to ban that box when it comes to applying for jobs?
Because well, first of all, you have to understand when a brother or anyone gets out of prison, they've already been through this humiliation, degrading, and they really have very little self-esteem,
mm-hmm.
you know, and motivations to go forward.
Right.
And when you apply for a job and you have to check off that box about your felony
mm-hmm.
and list what it was specifically
mm-hmm.
and so forth, you know you're not going to get no job. You know what I mean?
Right.
You just don't have the build-up.
Right.
So it's very important, and we talk about jobs, but this Bandit Box affects your education, you're going to school for getting your Pell Grants,
mm-hmm.
and so forth and so on.
So they made a law that if you have a felony and you want to go back and get your education like anybody else, and
right.
All Americans should have access to the Pell Grants and so on, but you're saying a person that has a felony conviction cannot apply for that Pell Grant.
Now they can apply if they want to.
I mean, but they won't get it. Or what?
And it's been revised over time.
Uh-huh.
So it's a lot of times it has to do with the felony was for.
Mm-hmm.
Like I know with drugs, it's automatically no.
Okay.
It's not happening. But let's go back to what you said about the fox.
Right.
You know, because everybody seemed to have really had this big thing on Clinton.
Mm-hmm.
Now we got another Clinton running now.
Yeah.
But do you know why they took the books and the education out of state prison? You know who was the president who made that happen? Clinton.
Wow. And that's back when brothers used to go to prison to be able to get education and apply to
vocational
colleges.
training.
Yeah.
And the whole gamut.
Clinton did that.
Clinton wrote that in there. So
yeah.
That's one of the first things he did.
Look at that. See?
You know, so we really have to look at the works of a person,
mm-hmm.
be it Democrat or Republican.
That's right. That's
you
right.
know?
That's right.
They both are canine.
That's what Malcolm X said. He said, hey, they're both dogs.
They're both
and
dogs.
He said, that leaves you in the doghouse.
In the doghouse.
No matter
so
what.
You have to really be careful. And I can understand why people are hesitant to vote. Mm-hmm. And who to vote for, because they really don't know.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's a learning curve in itself, knowing who to vote for and what propositions stand behind.
Absolutely. And not only that, but I believe, Black Lives Matter movement has kind of forced the conversation
right.
To focus on this, on criminal justice system and police brutality and things like that. Yes. Even among Hillary and among Sanders. Because before they were confronted, they really weren't even...
speed right past that conversation.
Exactly. Speeding right past it. They were forced that have that conversation,
Yeah.
but they come to us as foxes because they were tricking us. They're like, oh yeah, I'm for you. But then when they get in the office, you don't see them doing anything. Not even through executive order like President Barack Obama. He's like, hey, I'm gonna issue an executive order. I'm gonna begin this conversation. A lot of people don't see a lot of things that he's doing.
He's a hero.
He's inside a racist system.
He's a hero.
And he's working and making some things happen. Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely a hero. Man, the brother has put his whole life out there to make a difference.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we really need to enforce and be more like Barack Obama on our job.
That's right. That's right.
When you're on your job, does your company disenfranchise formerly incarcerated?
Right.
Look at your human human relations there at the school that you go to. Are they discriminating against folks with the criminal? Ask the question.
Yeah.
If you already know, and if it's yes, then get in contact with all of us or none, and we'll work together and make a difference in that employment site.
Amen.
Because that's what's happening on a larger scale, like Target and different businesses that once were discriminative are now opening their doors for formerly incarcerated.
Right.
So society's taking a broader look at this picture.
That's right.
And are willing to do what's right.
Exactly.
Not just follow the pattern.
Yeah. It's kind of like along the lines of what we call market justice.
Exactly.
Folks go along with whatever the people are saying.
Yes.
Whatever the majority of the people are saying, they call that market justice. But we need social justice. We need people to be treated fairly and right. Every individual and so on. And to criminalize a community of black and brown and so on, that's how
poverty is the root of it all.
Yeah.
Poverty.
Yes, exactly.
Those who don't have a voice, those who are scraping, the bottom, just to try to survive, And so we have to look where people are coming from before you put this big hammer down on them. A lot of people really don't have opportunity or much opportunity. That's right.
Yeah,
10 steps behind everybody else.
Exactly, and that even our young black children that we see, because they grow up and they see either their dad or their mom going to prison, not in their lives, and so it's not that they just horrible parents caught up in a brutal system.
Up in that system.
And so they grow up not understanding, not being taught.
And falling into the same traps eventually.
Exactly. And it's a vicious cycle that continues to be repeated. And so, banning that box, the other thing about not just banning the box, but changing the system, the way they do things. If the crime that I committed has nothing to do with the job that I'm applying for.
Right.
They'll even use, they say, well, no violent felony. A burglary is considered a violent felony, but I might be applying for a job that has nothing to do.
Yeah. I mean, you could be working in the desert flipping rocks.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? That's your job.
And so we can't give you a job because you burglarized.
Exactly. I can't tell you how many jobs that I've actually been on and different felonies that I may not have listed precisely on that particular application came back and haunted me.
Yeah.
And I was released. And that happens all the time. They can be doing an audit on your job and because you didn't mention something about your past, and they let you go. That's just a way of giving strength to those who are giving strength to folks to disenfranchise others.
Right.
Right. And it's not so much your felony, but that's gives them a reason to let you go and not hire you in the first place.
Yeah. And if we're going to have black empowerment, and some of the younger black generation, they're getting it. And they're moving in a place where they become entrepreneurs,
they are really getting it,
and hiring folks. But that middle class respectability and this white dominant narrative and a system that we're dealing with. A lot of blacks have bought into it, even when they have their own businesses.
Even when they
use the same racist system.
They sure do. The same system, and they don't challenge it.
Right.
And if you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem.
Right.
And it's not so much You can put it on racial lines,
Mm-hmm.
but it's way beyond. It's way beyond that.
Class, poverty, yeah.
Yes, it's caste system.
Mm-hmm.
It's the haves and the have-nots,
Right.
and the wannabes. The wannabes really getting away. So, it's a couple points that you mentioned that I want to save some time to be able to
Go ahead.
discuss a little bit. We have to do more as a community.
Yes.
Living in San Diego, our community is so divided.
Yes, it is.
And we're not going to win nothing based on race.
That's
Not
right.
as African Americans in
That's right.
San Diego.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not. It's not our strength.
Right.
So we have to be more involved with others who don't particularly look like us.
That's right.
But we have the same issues.
Right.
The Latino population community is heavily discriminated, just like we are.
Yes.
And they face issues.
Strong ally.
Strong ally.
Yeah.
We have to build these bridges, just like a lot of our churches now. When I was growing up, we had so many churches. Well, we had churches on every block that were full to capacity.
That's right.
Now our churches, we go to those same churches.
Mm-hmm.
We may have a service in the morning, but the Latinos got it in the evening.
Right. That's right.
See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's important for us to learn to mix among those who we share space with.
That's right. And it's treated the same way.
And we're treated the same way.
Collaboration and partnership and allies, yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
We need to form a power base. And that's why we started All of Us or None, because we realized that collectively we have a chance to influence policy and make a difference.
Right.
So no one, and it's been this thing, like you said, they use laws and this trickery. But I remember she always tell us, you're out on parole, do not associate with other parolees.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They know. See, they know that there's strength in numbers.
Yeah, absolutely.
And when folks have a common interest, they can get together and make a bigger difference.
Right.
They can really enhance change.
Right. And then if you criminalize a community,
Right.
black and brown,
Right.
and none of us can talk
No, to each
you
other.
can't talk to your brother, your
But I've been
cousins,
in
your
violation.
best friend.
That's why it's been so easy for folks to get violated in the past.
Exactly.
Can't
go to certain neighborhoods.
Can't go to certain neighborhoods. You can't talk to certain people. If I see you associating with fellow Crips or Bloods or what have you, it's violation. Automatic violation.
Right.
Technical violations.
Right.
So that's some things that they have changed a little bit, but still they want to enforce it. They can't.
Right.
And that gang, you don't get into that gang thing.
Right.
The gang database that they're keeping.
Mm-hmm.
That's on these youngsters. Man.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're getting these
Then
youngsters.
they use it against them when they get in prison and everywhere else.
Even before they go to prison, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
My daughter had got in trouble when she was in high school, my oldest daughter.
Uh-huh.
Just to give a quick example. She had a knife that she was carrying on campus.
Uh-huh.
And she got caught with it.
Mm-hmm.
And she explained it, everything she was holding for was good with it. So she was automatically zero tolerance, definitely in effect.
Right.
Expunged from school, and she had to go to a continuation school.
Uh-huh.
I watched the other day these two boys.
Yeah. Up north?
Up north.
Yeah. I saw that too.
Are caught with their father's knife on campus.
In their car, yeah.
On campus.
Mm-hmm.
No charges.
I didn't see the final result there, so they dropped the charges?
Dropped all charges.
Wow.
They were right back in school.
Wow.
So zero tolerance is zero tolerance for who?
Yeah,
For
exactly.
us.
Exactly.
People of color, minorities.
And that's what the laws were
You
made
know?
for. That's what the laws were made for.
And that's right. And they're making these laws and they're targeting our children now. And we have to stand up and speak up against things and if we have a voice.
Right.
Someplace where we can go and get mad. You know what I mean? And get mad and then get smart on how we can make changes.
Right. And that's why it's so important. The vote is so important, and because, like you were talking earlier about us working together, black and brown and so on, people other that are oppressed like we are,
Right.
to work together to change systems. And it's so important that that narrative be changed too, that we reframe that narrative so that the politicians will understand that we're not going to put up with this no more.
Right.
And if you don't do the job right, we're going to take you out of office.
We can't trust you to do it right.
Exactly.
Just because you look like me, it doesn't mean you got my best interest
That's
at
right.
heart.
That's right. That's right.
It's your actions that would demonstrate.
Let me ask you a question, and we talked about it a little bit. Why do you believe that? And I'm going to add brown because I think that's a good conversation that we need to have. Why do you think the black and the brown vote is important?
It's critical.
What
It's critical, especially in California, because you know in California, the Hispanic vote is no longer the minority vote.
Mm-hmm.
They're the majority.
Right, okay.
So now that's the majority vote. So you want to be on the side of right, and you want to be on the side of power.
Right.
You know, we are in San Diego, I think, what, 6% of the population?
Mm-hmm.
You know, 6%?
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's very little juice.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So we have to unite with somebody. You
Right.
don't have a voice.
And
You can't stand alone on this.
And they're getting smart with it because when as I read earlier, 70% of the California state prison population is black and brown.
Right.
And with a government elected by its citizens, and that affect every aspect of our lives, these government agencies, these politicians, from school to healthcare to homeland security to voting. Voting is an important right in our society, and by voting, you are making your voice heard, registering your opinion on how you think the government should operate. And I think one of the key things that the system is doing against people of color is suppressing the vote. And if prisoners, and they make this up, oh, you're a felon, you can't vote, you're in prison, you can't vote. If prisoners could vote while they were incarcerated, would that help change things?
Yeah, of course. In the meantime, you got larger numbers. You know, there's numbers. If you believe in the voting system, first of all, you know, the way I look at it, you know, exercise your right to vote if you haven't.
Right.
But don't think that because you have a right to vote is the answer to all your problems, because it really isn't.
Right.
You know, until we get the people's mindset to change and treat others as their brothers and their sisters, treat others as you would have them, as you would like to be treated yourself. Mm-hmm. Until we start adapting that philosophy in our day-to-day walk, won't that change? Because power only concedes to power.
Right.
And if we're waiting on African Americans to have real power, we've been waiting a mighty long time. Mm-hmm. So we need to start treating each other respectfully. Right. And I think love will conquer it all.
Mm-hmm. Right. Now, one of the things I wanted to look at here, you know, when we talk about the school system and our children. Right. And are formerly incarcerated individuals denied the right to be involved with their children when they are incarcerated?
Not only when they're incarcerated, but when they're not incarcerated. They have,
with it.
Yeah, see, the issue is that if you have a felony, you are not allowed to continue. First of all, you're not going to work at the school.
Right. Right.
You know, and that's one of the difficulties that I had, because I was hired as a math teacher at Sherman Elementary School here in San Diego. And once my background check went through, I was let go.
See, look at that. And so, let alone volunteer to help work with your children.
Not volunteer, I was paid. I was staff.
Wow.
I was actually hired.
Okay.
But once, you know, they do a 90 months after you're hired, or 6 months, however long it was. Then they complete the background checks.
Right, right. And
so
once they saw the felony, they said,
I was let go. So, now, at my daughter's school, my kids' school, I'm a single parent.
Right.
Raising 3 kids.
Right.
So I had to go to the school.
Right.
You know, and they never checked. You know, but had they had checked, I would have been very limited on what I was actually able to do on campus.
Just because of
my felonies.
And so you see how how the community is being criminalized in the sense of taking us back to slavery, oppression, in every aspect.
Chaining balls on your ankles.
Yes. In every, they won't, I mean, you get out and they want you to, your probation, parole officer wants you to be on the straight and narrow,
right?
But yet there's no opportunities, and you can't even, like, when you want to do the right thing for your children, can't even like do the right thing for them because of a felony or what you do on the campus. No, you can't volunteer, you can't go on a field trip, you can't be a chaperone.
Exactly.
And here you are just trying to participate in your children's
right. And you know what? Like I said, God is good.
Yes, He is.
Man, God is good. So I'm so blessed that even though I know those rules were in place, on the city school campuses and so forth, it never stopped me from doing one thing I wanted to do, other than work.
Amen.
Work there. Mm-hmm. But being with my kids all the time, participating with them through school.
I'm going to do what I got to do.
And I praise the Lord. I did it. And Lord opened up doors and make things happen.
And
take one step, I take two. Mm-hmm. And that has always been, because Lord knows, I got 5 strikes coming out of prison.
Right.
5 strikes. Anything, I jaywalking out of it.
And it's over. Yeah.
And it's been 24 years. And I haven't looked back yet.
Thank God.
You know, I just praise the Lord every day.
That's right.
You know, I've been laid off jobs and had to go, and I had to do what I had to do.
Right.
But I stayed within the bounds of the legal system.
Okay, man, I feel like we just began this conversation, but we ran out of time.
Yes, sir.
There's so much more we want to cover. So we might have to have a part 2 to this.
Oh, yeah, no doubt.
But I want to thank you for being on the show, and it was good and our privilege to have you on. And I'd like to encourage all my listeners to come by and visit our church worship service on Saturdays, 11:30 a.m. at 610 South 30th Street. That's in San Diego, 92113. Thank you for listening. Huh?
And we also want to meet with all of us tonight.
Yes.
It's the second Sunday of every month at Malcolm X Library.
All right.
2 o'clock.
Be there, and I'll be there. So let's be there. And so thanks for tuning in, and tune in next week for another great show on What's Happening Now.
What's happening now?
On KBOKRadio.com. And God bless you.